The fork slipped from my hand and hit the plate with a sharp clink. Nobody moved. Nobody apologized. My father didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. He just slid a manila folder across the dining table and pressed his palm flat on top of it like a judge sealing a verdict. "Sign it," he said. "We're done asking." The overhead light buzzed faintly. The dishwasher hummed in the kitchen, steady and indifferent. My mother didn't look at me. My brother leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, already smiling. The folder stopped right in front of my place setting between the bread plate and my glass of water. I hadn't opened it yet. I already knew what it was. That was the first snap. Quiet, internal, like a hairline crack in glass. If you've ever had family treat you like you're only valuable when you're useful, if you've ever been cornered at a dinner table and made to feel small, take a second and hit like, subscribe, you're not alone in this. And you're going to want to hear how this ended. My name is Lauren Whitmore. I was 30 years old that night. I lived alone in a downtown apartment in Knoxville, Tennessee. I paid my own rent, my own insurance, my own silence. I thought I'd finally learned how to keep my family at a safe distance. I was wrong. The dining room smelled like roasted chicken and lemon cleaner. Everything was too neat, too staged. My mother had set the table with the good plates, the ones that only came out when something was expected of you. My father tapped the folder once with his finger. "It's just a formality," he said. "Evan needs backing. You're stable." Stable. That word again. My older brother Evan tilted his head, studying me the way people study a vending machine that's eaten their money. He didn't say thank you. He didn't say please. He said, "It's not even your money, it's just your name." I looked down at the folder, thick, heavy, the kind of paper that changes lives. How much, I asked. My father didn't hesitate. 300,000. My mother finally looked up then. Her eyes were soft, practiced. "It's for family," she said. "We wouldn't ask if we didn't have to." That was the second snap. I thought of the last time she'd said that, and the time before that, and the way those words always came wrapped around numbers. I pushed the folder back an inch. "I didn't agree to this," I said. My father's jaw tightened. His hand closed around the edge of the table. I noticed absurdly how white his knuckles were under the light. "You didn't need to," he said. "You owe this family. We raised you." Evan laughed under his breath. Not loud, just enough. "Don't make this dramatic, Lauren." There it was. The gaslighting. Clean, efficient. I felt my sleeve twist as my mother reached for my arm. Her grip was light, but it held. "Sweetheart," she said, "why are you being difficult? This is what families do. Difficult, not careful. Not scared, not rational, difficult." I pulled my arm back. The dishwasher clicked off. The silence rushed in. "I need time," I said. "I need to read it." My father shook his head once. Sharp. Final. No. "You sign tonight." I stared at him. Really stared. At the man who'd taught me to balance a checkbook at 16, then spent the next decade telling me it was my responsibility to fix everyone else's mistakes. "What happens if I don't?" I asked. Evan answered before anyone else could. "Then you're telling us where you stand." My mother inhaled slowly like she was bracing herself. "You'd really let your brother fail," she said. "After everything we've done for you. Everything." I thought about the power bill I'd paid 3 winters ago, the credit card I'd opened temporarily, the tuition payment I'd wired without a thank you. I thought about how none of those things were mentioned now, how they never were. "I didn't ask for this meeting," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "You ambushed me." My father's chair scraped loudly as he leaned forward. "Don't twist this," he snapped. "You always do this. You get emotional. You make yourself the victim." That was the third snap, louder this time. "I'm not emotional," I said. "I'm cautious." Evan rolled his eyes. "God, you're acting like we're stealing from you." My mother's voice cut in low and sharp. "We're ashamed we even have to explain this to you. Ashamed." I felt heat rise behind my eyes, but I didn't let it spill. I folded my hands in my lap and pressed my fingernails into my skin until the sting grounded me. "Who else is signing?" I asked. No one answered. I looked at Evan. "You?" He shrugged. I don't need to. The bank wants a strong profile. There it was, the truth naked and unbothered. You, my father said, pointing at me, are the strong profile. I stood up. The chair legs screamed against the floor. My water glass tipped spilled across the tablecloth, soaking into the fabric like a spreading stain. Nobody moved to clean it. I'm not signing anything tonight, I said. My father stood too. The room felt smaller with him looming over me. If you walk away from this, he said, voice dropping, don't bother calling yourself part of this family. Evan smirked. Don't be dramatic, Dad. She'll come around. My mother didn't smirk. She didn't threaten. She looked at me with tired eyes and said the sentence that finally broke something clean in half. If you loved us, she said quietly, you wouldn't hesitate. That was it. I grabbed my coat. My keys clicked loudly in my hand, the sound slicing through the room. No one followed me. No one stopped me. As I stepped into the cold night air, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from Evan. Don't do something you'll regret. I locked my car. The click echoed in the empty driveway. I sat behind the wheel for a long moment, hands shaking chest tight, realizing something terrifying and liberating at the same time. They hadn't asked me because they trusted me. They asked because they assumed I wouldn't say no, and for the first time in my life, I had. The first time it happened, it didn't feel like theft. It felt like responsibility. I was 23, fresh out of school, still afraid of sounding ungrateful on the phone. My father called at 7:42 a.m., right when I was tying my shoes for work. Electric company sent a notice, he said. No greeting, no pause, just cover it this once. I asked how much. 400, he replied. Then softer. You're doing well. We're proud of you. That was the hook. Pride dangled like a reward. I didn't send cash. I logged into my bank app on the bus ride downtown and paid the bill directly. It felt cleaner that way, safer, like I was helping without crossing a line. 2 weeks later, it was the insurance premium. A month after that, the water bill. Then a temporary credit card charge for groceries. No one ever said the word loan. They said things like, we'll settle it later, or it's just easier if you handle it, or my mother's favorite. This is what families do. I told myself it was normal, that every family leaned on the kid who landed on her feet. Evan didn't land. He hovered, permanently mid-fall. My brother always had something in the works, a whisper of a breakthrough, a deal that was basically done. 1 year it was short-term rentals, another year a logistics startup, then crypto mining, then land flipping. The words changed, but the tone never did. This one's different, he'd say, eyes, bright hands moving fast. I just need to bridge the gap. The gap always had my name on it. I didn't hand him checks. I didn't Venmo him. I became the background architecture. The quiet support beam no one noticed unless it cracked. I co-signed a phone plan when his credit dipped. I put a deposit on a shared storage unit for inventory. I let my card cover flights when his investor delayed funding. Every time my parents waved it off. Evan's trying, my father would say. Don't be so rigid, my mother added. You're different. You're stable. Stable meant expandable. It meant stretch until you hold. When my younger sister Hannah started college, the requests shifted. Smaller, more frequent. I'll pay you back next semester, she said. I forgot my card, she said. It's just books, she said. I transferred tuition straight to the school, paid insurance premiums directly to the provider, bought flights myself instead of reimbursing. It kept me from feeling foolish. It kept me from asking hard questions. But I noticed patterns. Hannah's social media filled with concert lights and weekend trips. Evan's car changed every 18 months. My parents' house never improved. The roof still leaked. The fridge still hummed too loud. Where did the money go, I asked once. Just once. Why doesn't Evan contribute, I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. The room went quiet. My father looked at me like I'd insulted him. Because he's building something he said. You don't nickel and dime vision. My mother reached for my hand. Her grip was warm, familiar. You don't want to clip his wings, do you? I pulled my hand back. I didn't want to clip anything. I just wanted to stop bleeding quietly. The worst part wasn't the money. It was the expectation. No one asked if I could help. They asked how fast. Texts came without punctuation. Calls ended without thank yous. Need $600 by Friday. Can you float this until next month? Just put it on your card. Once after I hesitated, my father said, "What's gotten into you?" That night I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, listening to it click unevenly. I ran the numbers in my head, what I'd saved, what I'd lost, what I'd never tracked because I didn't want to know. That was when the question formed. If I disappeared tomorrow, if I stopped answering, would they miss me or the access I didn't say it out loud? I didn't need to. The answer was already there. Evan's biggest crash came 2 years before the dinner, a real estate project that existed mostly in conversations and spreadsheets. My parents had co-signed a private loan for him. When it collapsed, the bank didn't call Evan. They called me. "Just help us clean this up," my father said. "It's family." I said no, for the first time. The silence on the line stretched long enough for me to hear my own breathing. My mother called the next day. Her voice was calm, too calm. "Family doesn't abandon family, Lauren." That sentence stayed with me. Not because it hurt, because it revealed something. In their minds, family meant obligation. Love was assumed. Payment was required. After that, I started pulling back, quietly. No announcements, no speeches. I stopped auto-paying anything that wasn't mine. I declined temporary requests. I let calls go to voicemail. They noticed immediately. My father accused me of being distant. My mother asked if I was seeing someone. Evan joked that I'd gone corporate. I said nothing, but they didn't stop. They just changed tactics. That's why the dinner invitation felt wrong. Not loving, not casual, strategic. By then I'd built a life that didn't revolve around their needs, a job that challenged me, an apartment that was quiet, a routine that belonged to me, and still one folder on one table nearly pulled me back into the old role. Sitting there that night staring at the manila envelope, every moment stacked on top of the next like a ledger finally being totaled. The bills, the transfers, the signatures that weren't called signatures. I wasn't shocked by the number inside that folder. I was shocked they thought I wouldn't recognize the pattern. They hadn't asked because they were desperate. They asked because I'd trained them to believe I'd say yes. And that was the moment I understood the truth that hurt more than any demand. I wasn't the family safety net. I was the system. And systems are invisible until they shut down. The room didn't explode when I said no. That was the strange part. It just shifted. My father exhaled through his nose, slow and controlled, like he was counting to keep from raising his voice. My mother's shoulders softened, her face rearranging itself into something fragile. Evan stopped smiling. The folder stayed where it was. "Lauren," my mother said gently, "you're tired. You've been working too much. Let's not make decisions like this when emotions are high." There it was, the first pivot, not an order anymore, concern. "I'm not tired," I said. "I'm clear." My father leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. The light caught the watch on his wrist. Gold. Heavy. "You're letting fear make you selfish," he said. "That's not how we raised you." Selfish. Second pivot. Evan leaned forward, elbows on the table now, voice low and reasonable. "Look," he said, "no one's forcing you. We just thought you'd want to help. I mean, you've always stepped up. Always." Past tense, weaponized. "I didn't say I wouldn't help," I replied. "I said I'm not signing this." My mother's eyes filled instantly. On cue. "I don't understand what we did wrong," she said. "All we ever wanted was to keep this family together." Third pivot. Guilt. My father's chair scraped as he stood again. He walked to the window, stared out into the dark yard like the answer was written there. "If this deal falls apart," he said without turning around, "it's on you." There it was. The threat. I felt something settle in my chest. Not panic, not anger, resolve. I stood slowly, picked up the folder, felt its weight one last time, then I slid it back across the table toward my father. "I've already paid," I said. They all looked at me. "I've paid for the utilities," I continued. "The insurance, the tuition, the deposits, the gaps you never planned for." My voice didn't shake. That surprised me. "I've paid enough tuition for this family to earn a doctorate in avoiding consequences." Evan scoffed. "Wow." My father turned sharply. Watch your tone." "No," I said. "You watch the pattern." My mother wiped a tear that hadn't fallen yet. "So this is how you repay us," she whispered. That was the line they always used when they were losing. I shook my head. "This isn't repayment. This is graduation." Silence. The overhead light flickered once. The dishwasher clicked as it cooled. I pushed the folder the last inch away. "I'm not signing anything I said. Not tonight, not ever." My father's voice hardened. "If you walk out that door," he said, "don't expect us to be here when you need us." I met his eyes. "You've never been," I said. Evan stood abruptly, chair tipping back. "You think you're better than us now?" he snapped. "No," I replied. "I think I'm done being smaller." My mother's voice broke then, sharp and sudden. "If you leave," she said, "don't bother calling. I won't pick up." That sentence should have hurt more. It didn't. I reached for my coat. The fabric felt thin in my hands like I'd outgrown it without realizing. My keys clicked as I picked them up. A clean sound. Decisive. No one stopped me. Not when I walked past the table. Not when I opened the door. Not when the cold air rushed in and cut through the warmth behind me. Outside, the night was quiet. Too quiet. My breath fogged in front of me as I walked to my car. My phone buzzed once. "Evan, you're making a huge mistake." I didn't answer. I got in, closed the door, sat there for a moment with my hands on the steering wheel, feeling the engine's low hum through my palms. No tears came, just a strange lightness, like I'd set something heavy down and forgotten I'd been carrying it. As I pulled away from the curb, I looked back once at the house. The windows were lit, the table was still set, and for the first time I understood something with terrifying clarity. They weren't angry because I said no. They were angry because I finally meant it. The first thing I did when I got home was take off my coat and not sit down. I stood in the middle of my apartment lights off City Glow, bleeding through the windows, and listened to the silence. No footsteps above me, no voices through walls, just the low hum of the refrigerator and my own breathing. I opened my laptop, not out of anger, out of clarity. I pulled up every account I had ever touched: checking, savings, credit cards, the old joint account my parents insisted was just easier, the one I hadn't looked at closely in years because part of me already knew what I'd find. Numbers, patterns, access. I saw it all in a way I never had before. Automatic payments I didn't remember authorizing. Backup emails that weren't mine. Evan's phone number listed as a recovery contact on one card. That one made my stomach tighten. I didn't hesitate. I changed passwords, long ones, random ones. I removed recovery emails, took my name off anything that wasn't legally mine. I froze the joint account and transferred my remaining balance into a new private account I opened on the spot. Each click was clean, final. Confirm, confirm, confirm. The screen blinked, then settled. By midnight, every door they'd ever walked through without knocking was closed. My phone buzzed at 12:07 a.m. Dad. I let it ring. At 12:09, Mom. At 12:11, Evan. Then the messages started. What did you do? Call me now. This is not okay. I turned the phone face down and made tea. The kettle clicked off sharply, steam fogging the kitchen window. My hands were steady as I poured. At 12:26, a text from my aunt. Your father says you're confused. Call him. At 12:34, a cousin I barely spoke to. Family meeting tomorrow. Be there. I didn't respond. By morning, the narrative had formed without me. Evan moved fast. He always did when things started slipping. A vague post went up on his social media. No names, no details. Hard to watch someone throw everything away because they're scared to step up. I saw it through a screenshot Megan sent me with a single message. He's talking about you. I didn't react. By noon, the story sharpened. Another post, longer this time. Some people forget where they came from. They get comfortable. They leave family hanging and call it boundaries. I muted his name. My parents followed suit, subtler, but no less deliberate. Comments on old photos, Bible verses about duty, words like loyalty, sacrifice, ungrateful. People chimed in. Distant relatives, old neighbors. The ones who only knew the version of me that showed up on holidays with gifts and checks. No one asked me what happened. That told me everything. My phone rang again. Mom this time. I watched it vibrate on the counter while I ate toast standing up. Her voicemail came in seconds later. Her voice was calm, almost kind. "We don't know why you're doing this, Lauren, but you're hurting people. This isn't like you." That one almost worked. Almost. Then Evan tried a different angle. He emailed my work address. "Just want to clear the air. People are saying things. I'm trying to protect you." Protect. The audacity was impressive. I forwarded the email to a folder I'd labeled evidence and went back to work. For the first time in years, I didn't feel the need to explain myself. That urge to correct, to justify, to soften had burned out somewhere between the joint account and the password reset. I realized something then. They needed my reaction more than my money. Silence unsettled them. By day 3, the pressure escalated. Calls came from numbers I didn't recognize. Voicemails stacked up, each one tighter than the last. "Your father isn't sleeping. Your mother is beside herself. Evan says the bank is asking questions." I didn't listen past the first few seconds. Instead, I did something new. I called my bank. I asked them to flag my accounts for unusual activity. I set up alerts for every login attempt, every change, every dollar. Then I called the credit bureaus. I froze my credit. The woman on the line explained it gently, like she was used to this kind of call. "It just keeps anyone from opening anything in your name without your approval," she said. "Do it," I replied. When I hung up, my phone buzzed again. "Evan, you didn't have to go nuclear." I stared at the message. Nuclear. All I'd done was step out of reach. That night, Megan came over with takeout and wine. We ate on the floor, backs against the couch, my phone face down between us like a loaded weapon. "You okay?" she asked. I considered it. "I think so," I said. "I feel taller." She smiled. That's what happens when people can't reach your throat anymore. By the end of the week, the story turned uglier. Evan stopped implying and started accusing. He told people I was irresponsible, that I'd promised things and backed out, that I was letting my parents lose everything out of spite. I heard all of it secondhand. I said nothing. My parents' calls slowed, then sharpened again. "This is your last chance. You'll regret this. We didn't raise you to be cold." Cold. I looked around my apartment. Clean counters, quiet corners, a life that finally felt like it belonged to me. If this was cold, I'd take it. Late Friday afternoon, my bank called. They'd flagged an attempt to open a new line of credit in my name. I thanked the representative, asked for the details, took notes. Then I hung up and sat very still. That was the moment I understood the full shift. They weren't knocking anymore. They were rattling the handles. I didn't post. I didn't call. I didn't warn anyone. I documented everything. Dates, times, screenshots, voicemails. Power, I learned, doesn't need to announce itself. By Sunday night, the calls stopped. Not because they'd given up, because they'd run out of leverage. I stood by my window, city lights blinking like distant signals, and felt something settle deep and solid inside me. For the first time, my life was no longer accessible by guilt, and they could feel it. That's when I knew the balance had shifted. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough to change everything. The bank didn't call me when the loan was denied. They called my parents. I found out 2 days later from a cousin who texted me like she was delivering bad weather. "It fell through," she wrote. "Evan's deal. That was it. No details, no drama." Just 4 words that explained everything. The house Evan wanted never existed the way he'd described it. Not on paper, not to the lender. The numbers didn't hold. The guarantees weren't there. And without my name, without my credit, the entire thing collapsed in on itself. Quietly. That's how most lies end. Not with explosions, with paperwork. Evan spiraled fast. Faster than I expected. He called first, straight to voicemail, then again, and again. By the 3rd day, his tone changed. "You don't understand what you've done," he said in one message, voice tight. "Mom and Dad are freaking out." I deleted it. The next voicemail was colder. "You think you're safe now? People are talking." I deleted that too. My parents panicked the way people do when the illusion of control cracks. My mother left messages that started calm and ended ragged. "We just need help bridging this," she said. "Just temporarily. We'll figure the rest out." My father didn't soften. "This is your responsibility," he said. "We trusted you." That word again. Trusted. As if trust was something they extended downward, not something they'd spent years withdrawing from me. I didn't return any of the calls. Not because I was angry, because I finally understood something simple and unmovable. If I stepped back in now, nothing would change. I didn't want apologies. I didn't want acknowledgement. I didn't want them to finally see me. I wanted out. So I stayed out. Evan's story unraveled in pieces the way bad investments always do. Creditors pressed, partners vanished, the confident language drained out of his posts until they stopped altogether. My parents tried to reframe it. They told relatives the timing was bad, the market shifted. External forces. They never said my name again. I noticed that before I noticed anything else. No one asked me to come home. No one demanded I explain myself. No one apologized. They didn't miss me. They missed the function I served. That clarity hurt less than I thought it would. I kept working, head down, clean lines of code, clear outcomes, problems that behaved logically when you confronted them. A month later, an opportunity opened up in another city. Not an escape, just movement. I took it. I packed my apartment in stages, sold what I didn't need, gave away what I couldn't carry. The last thing I boxed was the old folder of financial documents I'd printed, the evidence I hoped I'd never need. On my final night in Knoxville, I stood by the window and watched the city settle into itself. Same streets, same lights, a life that could have stayed comfortable if I'd kept paying for it. The drive out was quiet. No dramatic last calls, no sudden reconciliations, just distance. In the new city, my days reset, new routines, new silence, the kind that doesn't wait for you to fill it. I changed my number, not out of spite, out of maintenance. Megan visited once weeks later. We sat on the floor of my new place, backs against unfamiliar walls. "Do you miss them?" she asked. I thought about it. "I miss who I thought I was to them," I said, "not who I actually was." She nodded. No follow-up. That was enough. I heard through the same cousin that my parents were downsizing, selling the house they'd lived in for decades. Not because they had to, because they could no longer afford the version of life they'd been propping up. Evan moved back in with them. That detail stuck with me, not because it felt like justice, because it felt inevitable. I never corrected the stories they told about me, never posted my side, never defended my choices publicly. The truth didn't need amplification. It just needed room. Sometimes late at night I'd think about the dinner table, the folder, the moment everything tilted. I'd feel a flicker of grief. Not for the family I left, but for the years I spent believing my worth was measured by how much I could absorb. That belief is hard to unlearn. But once you do it, never works on you again. I didn't win. No one did. I didn't get an apology tour or a tearful reunion. I didn't get closure the way movies promise it. What I got was quieter. I got to wake up without bracing myself. I got to check my accounts without dread. I got to build something that didn't require my self-erasure. And that was enough. I didn't lose my family. I just stopped paying to be called their daughter.